Hi everyone. Got quite a few people here today, which is great. I know some of you are also classes as well, so I think there's quite a few, hopefully quite a few teachers that have signed in that have got groups of children. So if you're in school at the minute, if your parents are key workers or for whatever reason you're in school at the minute, hello, hope it's going okay, hope you're having fun. If you're at home watching this, hope you're having fun as well. First thing, we were going to have the chat running down the side as well, so that people could ask questions as we got going, as we were going along. Probably some of YouTube's settings are quite strange, and so when I put chat on, it wouldn't show up for children. It wouldn't show up as kid friendly. So I've had to remove the chat, and also you had to be logged in to leave a message anyway. So I've turned off the chat. So what I'm thinking is, especially if you're in a classroom, or if you are at home, if you write down any questions that you want me to answer now, see if you can get an adult to send them to info@mattbeighton.co.uk as an email, or send them to me on Twitter @mattbeighton. Then what I'll do is towards the end of the workshop, I'll have a check, see if they're any there, and then I can answer them at the end of the workshop. So yes, if you have any questions, that's probably the easiest way to get them to me is through email, info@mattbeighton.co.uk, or my Twitter handle @mattbeighton. That's all in the comments as well underneath the video, so you can have a look down there, and that information's down there. Okay, so what I thought we would do today is a workshop on how to create characters, how to come up with a character for your own stories. Apologies, I'm leaning slightly to the side as well. I did Joe Wick's PE yesterday, which is amazing, but I've managed to twist my back doing it. So those of you that managed to survive Joe Wick's, you're much stronger than I am, so well done. So yeah, I thought we'd have a go at doing a create your own kind of a character workshop, which is one of the workshops that I run when I go into schools. Normally we'll do the workshop over kind of the whole, over an hour and a half with different classes. But I thought what we'd try and do today is try and do the same kind of workshop in about 20-25 minutes, so we're not sat here for too long. And then what I would love is if you want to, entirely up to you, but if you want to go away and take that character that you come up with today and put that character into a story, into a narrative, into a newspaper, but absolutely anything you want, into a poem, and send it through to me, what I'll do is I'll come back same time next week, and I'll read some of them out, and I'll pick a couple of favorites, and then I will send out some free books to those people, maybe pick 2 or 3 that I think are the best, and send out some free books to those people. So that's kind of how I see it working, how we'll deal with the kind of how we get addresses, names and addresses and things like that, because obviously we need to be careful with our personal information. But maybe if we get an adult to send that through, but we'll sort all that out. I'll put the information on my website. So the characters are really, really important. Hopefully you've all got pens and paper to hand. What I'll do is I'll give you a couple of minutes now. If you haven't got a piece of paper or a pencil or a pen or something to write on, just see if you can grab something that you can write on. Whilst you go and do that, I'm just going to read, anyone who's staying behind, one of my poems. I'm going to read one called The Tiger Who Came to Dance. Okay, this is from my book, Tig You're It, which is my book of poetry. So whilst everyone gets pens and paper ready, I'll read this poem. The other day in our playground, a tiger climbed over the fence. He wandered up to the headmaster and asked if he wanted to dance. The headmaster graciously declined. He says it wasn't within his milieu. So the tiger turned and asked us if he knew a tango or two. I'd long been practicing my rumba, my breakdancing street and cha-cha. So forward I stepped and snapped up my chance with the tiger who popped by to dance. We did the Charleston, the jive and the tango, even the electric boogaloo. We waltzed Viennese and traditional and found time for a salsa or two. We worked our way through the robot before finishing off with a foxtrot, but soon the bell chimed and called end on my time with a tiger who wanted to dance. It'd be cool if a tiger came to your school and wanted to dance. Okay, so I might read some more of those later. We all got pens and paper. Fantastic, right. Better make sure I've got some as well. Some paper, got a pen. So, characters are really, really important for stories. If you think about all the characters in any story that you've ever enjoyed. It doesn't matter whether you've read the book, whether you've watched a film, whether you've listened to an audio book, whatever it is, characters make the story. Okay, we all know Harry Potter. We all know, his personality. We know that he's courageous. We know that he's a little bit whiny, a little bit moany, a little bit stubborn, doesn't really listen. We know that Hermione is very clever. We know that she's very goody two shoes, for want of a better word. We know all these things because J.K. Rowling built those characters really, really well. And it's the same with everything. We know about the characters in David Williams' books. We know about the characters in my books because the characters are built. Now, when you're coming up with characters for your book, it can be really hard because you've got to do everything. You've got to come up with a whole person. And that can be really, really difficult. I've taught classes before. I've known children to sit there and spend a whole hour just deciding whether it's a boy or a girl, or whether they're blonde hair or brown hair. And that's kind of boring stuff for a character, really. If you were reading a book and all you know about them was their hair color, the fact that they were a boy or a girl, and that was it, that's a boring character. It's two-dimensional. You want to add more. The things that make people, or that make characters, is their personality, is how they react to different situations, how they control themselves in situations, how they control other people, how they control the story. Your characters need to tell the story through their actions and through what they do. And that's why it's really important that you make them fully rounded, you give them personalities. Now, even the best writers in the world cannot create from nothing. Everybody, every writer, every author, you're, as children, you are writing stories. So you are authors, you're writers, and you create worlds, you create characters, you create the magic. And the easiest way to do it, and the way I do it when I'm writing my stories, is to use things that you know. Okay, use people that you know, because the people around you, if you look around you now, there are people around you. They are more real than anybody ever created in the story because they're actually real. Harry Potter isn't real as much as we'd love him to be. It isn't real. These things are made up. So the people and places around you are going to be so much more real than anything you can come up with from scratch. So that's what we're going to work on. So we're going to take somebody or somebody that you know and use that to build into a completely new character for a narrative. And this works for anything. It works whether you're coming up with a human character, whether you're coming up with a vampire, whether you're coming up with an animal, whether you're coming up with a cat with a personality or a dog. It doesn't matter. You can use the same thing. Okay, the same techniques that we're going to go through today will work for everything, for every kind of character. Okay. So the first thing that I want you to do is to think of somebody that you know really, really, really well. You know their personality. You know what will annoy them. You know what makes them happy. You know what makes them laugh. You kind of know how they'd act in certain situations. And that could be a parent. It could be a grandparent. It could be your best friend. Could be your brother or sister. They don't have to be, good characters. You could be always annoyed at your bigger brother or sister, and then you could use that character. That's fine. It doesn't have to be an amazingly positive character. It needs to be something and somebody that you know really, really well. So I am going to choose my daughter. Okay, I'm going to choose my daughter Phoebe. She probably won't thank me for that, but I'm going to choose Phoebe. Okay, so all I want you to do on your piece of paper is just write, looks backwards, backwards, just write who you are going to choose for your character. Okay, I'll give you a couple of minutes to think of that. It can be absolutely anyone you want. I've worked with children who've chosen their grandparents, they've chosen their grandma, they've chosen their dad, they've chosen the mum. Like I say, brothers, sisters, that kind of thing is always really good. Best friends are amazing because you spend so much time with your best friend, don't you, that you know everything about them, really. So they're great people to choose. So all you need is just that name, just that person at the top of your piece of paper. That's all you need. Okay. And once you've done that, we'll move on to the next bit. I want you to start thinking about that person, what it is about that person that you know, that you know so well about them. Okay. So underneath the name, what I'd like to do is I want you to write 3 things about their personality, or 3 things about them as a person. So I was running this workshop the other day in a school, and there was a boy, I think he was year 4. He chose chosen his grandma as a character, and the things he chose about her, he says, "Oh, she always loves to give me lots of hugs. She's really kind and caring." The other thing is that she's quite stubborn. She doesn't like being told what to do. And the other thing he chose was that she goes on a lot of cruises. Like she was always going on holiday on cruises and things like that. So he chose those as the 3 things, the 3 facts about her personality, about her, what she liked, what she didn't like. And he chose those and put them on there. So I want you to have a look now with your character. Just choose those 3 things. I'm going to do them for Phoebe. So I'm going to say she's clever. I'm going to say that she is a little bit stubborn. She knows that. And I'm going to say she's adventurous. Okay. And again, if you're choosing brothers or sisters, it could be something about them that you find annoying. It could be the fact that they wind you up. It could be it could be your best friend. It could be the fact that they wind you up. It could be the fact that they like to tease you. It could be the fact that they're always out with their friends. Could be anything like that. Okay, just 3 things about that character. So I've gone for Phoebe, and I've just gone for clever, stubborn, and adventurous. Because they're going to kind of lead into the next bit. They're going to lead us to start thinking, right, I've got this character now who I know what they're like because I know those 3 personality traits. Or, you'll have other personality traits in your head as well. We've written 3 down, but you'll know other things. You'll know other things about that character. Okay, you might have said, "Oh, it's my mum. She loves. She's really kind and caring. She'll always do what's best for me. She's really strict though, and makes me have an early bedtime because I can't go to bed at midnight or whatever it is that you want to do. And also, she loves to go on jogs." And she's always exercising. But you'll also know other things. You'll also know that actually, when there's an emergency, she's calm. She doesn't panic. She just gets the job done. So that'll be another thing that you know about her. You might not have written down, but when you start to build that character, you will have all of those kind of personality traits. And when you get really good at this, and you've done it a few times, what you can start to do is pull different things from different people. So you'll have the kind and caring nature from your mum, but you might have the wacky, adventurous part from your granddad, who's always taking you on crazy adventures and things like that. So you can pick and choose different personality traits from people that you know, because it makes it so much easier. Okay. So we're ready. We all got those 2 things down. And the good thing about this is, so I've gone for my daughter, I've gone for Phoebe. I now know I don't need to worry about whether she's a boy or a girl because I've chosen it. I don't need to worry about hair color because I know what color her hair is. I don't need to worry about eye color or anything like that because all of that boring stuff is already done because I'm basing it on that character. And if I choose to change that later on, I can do, but I don't have to. So I don't have to worry about the boring stuff. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to pick one of those traits and I want you to give it kind of a twist. I want you to think of what crazy thing that trait could do. If you can't think of it for one of those 3, think of something else. Okay, the boy who wrote about his grandma and the fact that she went on cruises, I sat and talked to him, and he decided actually the reason she goes on lots of cruises is because she was a secret government agent, and she was going on these cruises to go to all these different countries in the world to kind of stop spy missions and to work with foreign governments and all this kind of, like she was a bit like James Bond, but going on cruises. So kind of you've got this idea then of this old woman, this crazy old woman, just going on cruises around the world to stop, evil geniuses around the world was his idea. And it was a brilliant way to twist what he knew about his grandma going on cruises and give it that different angle. There was another boy, I think he was in year 3, who chose his dad. And he says, "Oh, my dad's always boasting about how he's got loads of money." I says, "Okay, cool. Let's talk about that. So how do you think he's got that money?" He says, "Well, I don't know really." I says, "Well, what does your dad like?" This is why my dad really art galleries around the world and steals all the art and then sells it to kind of villains around the world. So he took something he knew about his dad, the fact that he, jokingly boasted about having loads of money, and the fact that he likes art and likes collecting art, and we turned that into a cool, adventurous kind of thing. That's not true. The same as these other boys' granny doesn't go on cruises really to stop international evil geniuses. We just twist a fact to give it a different storyline, and that's where we start to take it away from the person that you know, because we're not going to write a story about your grandma. We're not going to write a story about your brother or your sister. We're just using those people as a framework, as a scaffold to give us that personality. So for mine, I'm going to take, so Phoebe I've said is adventurous. And I'm going to say the reason that she's adventurous is because every night when we put her to bed, she pretends to go to sleep, but she doesn't. She sneaks out the window and she goes off looking for hidden treasure around, around England, around Leicestershire. So a bit like Indiana Jones. That kind of thing. So I'm already thinking, right, she's adventure. I'm going to think a bit like an Indiana Jones kind of style story. If you've read any of the Julia Jarman time traveling cat stories, something like that. So I might take something like that and think, actually, well, she loves collecting gems and gemstones. So maybe one of those gemstones allows her to travel in time or something like that. So the fact that she's adventurous is because she travels the country at night looking for treasure. Okay, so I'm just taking notes. I'm not writing paragraphs. I'm not writing loads and loads. I'm just getting down notes for my character. Okay. And whilst you're waiting, what I would like to do is, if you're waiting for other people to catch up, for me to move on, come up with a cool new name for your character. Okay, mine's not going to be called Phoebe. I don't want to use the real names. I want you to come up with somebody else. Okay, and you can go crazy. This is the best thing about being an author, especially about being a children's author. You can come up with crazy names. The headmistress in my Monster Academy series is called Miss Flopsbottom. Trying to think, the science teacher's called Mr. Snickle-Tinkle. So they're really, crazy names. In Spyglass and the Cherry Tree, I kind of went for old English words. So I went for things like jargoggle is an old English word for somebody who's clumsy and a buffoon, really. And so one of the characters is called jargoggle. So you can use those kind of snow broth as well, which is kind of like when snow starts to froth up. So you can use really funny names. Come up with your character name. Okay, so I'm going to change Phoebe. I'm going to cross Phoebe out. And I'm going to come up with, I keep touching my face. I'm really aware of touching my face now as well with everything that's going on. I am aware that I keep doing it. I am trying to stop. So I'm going to call her Dolores. Not even sure you spelled Dolores, I think that's right. Dolores Flower Pants. Dolores Flower Pants. Let's go for that. Okay, silly, but she's the adventuress. So I've now changed it to Dolores Flower Pants. So that's my character. Come up with your own name. Can be equally, I'm doing it again. Can be equally silly. Whatever you want to go for. Okay, so we've got a character. We've got a character name. We've got our 3 character traits. We've kind of twisted one a little bit. We've given a reason for one. What I want us to do now is think, what is one amazing fact about that person that nobody knows, that they've always kept secret? Okay, and it could tie in, or it should tie in ideally with what you've just written about their facts. So I put that Dolores Flower Pants travels the country at night looking for treasure. So my amazing fact I'm going to put is that actually in a box hidden under her floorboards, she has got a trove of treasure that is worth millions of pounds that she's kind of dug up and stolen from everywhere. Okay, so all I'm going to write is trove of treasure. Okay. So that's it. Just another fact about them, just something else that makes this character different, that makes them that kind of story character. So if I take in my first Monster Academy book, The Halloween Parade, Trixie Grimble is a normal girl, like just like any of you girls out there. But her school closes and she has to go to a school for monsters. But she isn't a monster. She doesn't have any monster powers. She's not a werewolf or anything like that. And she gets there, and it is full of all these monsters that are, that she thinks are so cool. So her personality, I kind of based on any new child really that I've ever taught when I was a teacher before, because you've got these new children coming to schools. If you've ever moved school, you know what it's like. You go into a school, you don't know anybody, you don't know the rules, you don't know the regulations, you don't know who's who, you don't know who you're going to get into trouble for playing with, all of those kind of scary things you just don't know. And so I thought, well, I can use those personalities, I kind of fear and how people would act in that way. But actually think, how much worse would it be if not only were these people different, but if they were, if they were new people, if they were monsters? And there's werewolves out, are they going to eat me? And there's a vampire, what's going on there? And it turns out that the vampire that she becomes friends with is a vegetarian vampire who hates blood. And the werewolf she becomes friends with is a cursed werewolf who turns into a pink poodle every full moon instead of a wolf. So I've, again, played with those kind of things. And you can do that with your character. So now one of your facts for your character, if you're sitting there thinking, I put my Dolores Flowerpants has got a trove of treasure under a wardrobe under her floorboards. I could have easily said that she's a secret vampire, or that she's a werewolf, or that she's she can transform into different animals, or that she's a witch or a wizard or anything like that at all. You can bring all of that in. You could have a secret high school witch. I don't know if anyone ever watched Sabrina the Teenage Witch when they were younger. Or it might still be on now, but you could flip that and have the idea of this secret witch or secret wizard in a normal school, in a normal high school. And that could be your character. So you could think about your best friend who's maybe sat next to you now, if you're at school, who's sat at home. What if they were a witch, but you didn't realize it? Or what if they were a secret agent? What if they were a secret spy? What if they were an evil villain? If they were an evil genius? And they had a button that when they pressed it, their floorboards in their bedroom opened up and they went down into a secret cellar, like a hidden lair. And so you can take those people and just make them different. Right. So what I want us to do now, how are we doing for time? Oh, good, we've got a bit of time. What I want us to do is think, how are we going to come up with a story for that character? And again, we're going to use what we know. So I am going to use a story that I know really, really well, which is Little Red Riding Hood, because I know the story really well. It doesn't need to be anything that we don't know. We've not got to come up with a story. Because again, if you're coming up with a story, you've got to come up with everything. But if you choose a story structure that you can twist it and change it and make it completely different. Okay, so I'm going to choose Little Red Riding Hood because I know it. Doesn't have to be a complicated story. Doesn't have to be, in fact, the bigger the story you choose, the more complicated the story you choose, the harder this is going to be. You want a really simple story. So Little Red Riding Hood is great because you've got a girl who meets a bad person in the wolf on the way to do something. She's on the way to her grandma's. She meets the bad wolf. She continues on a journey. She gets there. The bad wolf has done something. He's eaten the grandma, and she solves that problem. So you've got a very simple structure. A person is going somewhere, gets stopped on the way. There, they can't do what they wanted to do, and they have to solve the problem. So that's a really simple story structure. You can kind of follow that with anything like Cinderella almost fits into there as well. You've got Cinderella. She wants to go to the ball. She's stopped by her evil stepsisters. She gets to the ball and she can't dance with the prince, or she dances with the prince, but then midnight strikes, so she can't do what she wants to do. And then the problem has to be solved at the end with him finding her with a glass slipper. So it's the same structure as Little Red Riding Hood. They're the same kind of thing. So I'm going to choose Little Red Riding Hood. Again, just run Little Red Riding Hood. Nothing more. Don't need to write lots. And now I'm going to start changing it. So my character, my Little Red Riding Hood, is going to be Dolores Flowerpants. My character I've just come up with. That's going to be my main character. And so I know that my Dolores Flowerpants is a treasure hunter. And then I start to think, well, she's not going to be in the woods. like Little Red Riding Hood was. She's not going to be in the forest. So my setting is going to change. I'm going to think, right, where is she going to be hunting for treasure? And that depends. If she's a thief, it might be in a museum. Okay, I'm going to set this one in a museum because I quite like the idea of it being an international treasure thief. Okay, so I'm going to set it in a museum. Again, just writing at the bottom, museum. Okay, so I'll give you a couple of seconds just to write that down. Again, we're not making massive notes. That will come later. That's what the kind of, if you want to do it, that's what the competition will be. You can take these notes, you can write this story. You know, it doesn't have to be long. 300, 400, 500 words, something like that. Send it through to me and I'll judge them. I'll pick a few winners and then I'll send out some free books. That's absolutely fine. Doesn't matter England. I don't know where people are watching from. If you're watching from an international place as well, we can, I can send them abroad. That's fine. I don't know how long it'll take to get there with the borders closed at the minute, but I will send them. Okay, so we've got Dolores Flowerpants and she's in a museum. We know the quest that she's going on, Little Red Riding Hood's quest is to take a basket of food to her grandma. Dolores Flowerpants' quest is to steal something from the museum. It doesn't matter at the minute. I'm not going to come up with what she's trying to steal. I just know she's going to try and steal something from the museum. That's her quest. That's where she's going to go. So then I've got to think, well, logically then, if she's in a museum, she's trying to steal something, who is going to be the big bad wolf? Who is going to stop her from stealing that treasure? Who is going to stop Little Red Riding Hood from delivering the food? If my character was a spy, a secret agent, if you came up with like a James Bond secret agent and you're thinking, well, Little Red Riding Hood, I might set it in the streets of Paris or the streets of Rome or something like that. Who would stop your secret agent? Who would stop your spy from going where they want to go? If they're going to the FBI headquarters, for instance, or if they're going to the evil genius's volcano lair off the coast of Italy, who would stop them? It might be the Italian government. It might be another secret agent. It might be a secret army of cats that go around the world stopping evil geniuses. It could be absolutely anything you want. You can drop in whatever you want for this. It's your story. That's the beauty of it. So I've got Little Red Riding Hood. She's in a museum. Person to stop her from stealing the treasure, I think, would be a security guard. So I'm going to put a security guard. Now, because I'm thinking, I've done this before, and I'm thinking ahead. I'm going to think my security guard. I've already got his personality. My security guard thinks he's kind of a superhero. He thinks he's Superman. He thinks he's Spider-Man. As he's walking around the museum at night, he's doing forward rolls around corners. He's flashing his torch around. He really thinks he's this kind of big shot security guard in this museum. So he's kind of a bit of a comedy character. A bit of comic relief. So I'm going to go for him as a security guard trying to stop her. And if I think, well, Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf stopped the Little Red Riding Hood by eating the grandma. I'm not going to have my security guard eat Dolores Flowerpants because that doesn't fit with the narrative. You could have kind of a kidnap or a capture or something like that if you're going for something more like a spy film, a spy story or something like that. Definitely you could have somebody capture them. You've got to think what works with your story idea. So I'm going to go for the security guard is going to lock down or remove the treasure that she's going for. So, say for instance, she was going to steal, let's say she's going to steal the Tutankhamun death mask. So everyone has seen the Tutankhamun mask, the big gold face mask with the blue and the gold and the different colors. So that's what she's trying to steal. I think it's in a museum in Luxor. We can use our creative license. It could be in the British Museum in London. It could be on loan. We don't have to go for actual facts. So it's in the museum. Security guard knows that that's what she's after, so he is going to lock that down. That's going to be when she gets into the story. She gets to the case, and it's not there. It's been taken away. Okay, so takes mask away. And then I'm going to think, right, so how is she going to solve that? In Little Red Riding Hood, she cuts out, she goes and gets the woodsman, he cuts open the grandma, and they save it cuts open the wolf. Sorry, not cuts open the grandma, cuts open the wolf and they save the grandma. So I would then start thinking, well, how could she, get the mask back? And that would be the end of my story. And I'm not going to come up with that just now. So what we've done there is, in a very quick time, it's only taken us about 25 minutes. We have come up with a whole new character based on somebody that you know, using all of those personality traits. And we've put them into a story using a story that we know and a structure that we know. So we haven't actually had to use all of our imagination to think up the boring facts of that story. We haven't had to come up with hair colour. We haven't had to come up with a whole story mountain, because we've used a story that we know, hopefully. So I've used Little Red Riding Hood. You might have used something else, but you will have a story idea, hopefully, there in front of you. Because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Okay, if you look at Harry Potter again, it's a brilliant book. It's a brilliant story. You've got a boy who's in a horrible situation, living with his aunt and uncle in the cupboard, who's rescued from that situation and goes on an adventure. If you look at James and the Giant Peach, you've got a boy, his parents died pretty much in the first paragraph. I think they're killed by a rhinoceros, runaway rhinoceros. Goes and lives with his horrible aunt. So he's got a boy in a horrible situation, same as Harry Potter. He's rescued, this time by a giant peach, goes off on a magical adventure. Matilda. You've got Matilda in a horrible situation with parents that don't care for her, rescued by library and books and her magical powers, goes off on an adventure. You've got the same story structure. But if you read Harry Potter, or you read James and the Giant Peach, or you read Matilda, they're completely different stories. Okay, because the words around them, the ideas around them are completely different. But that story mountain that you're used to using is the same. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Okay, you look at even down to Hansel and Gretel. You've got children in a bad situation. They've got no food. They are rescued from that situation by the gingerbread house, and then they go on an adventure where they're almost eaten and they escape. So even the classics, they follow the same things. And the Brothers Grimm stories, so Hansel and Gretel, Cinderella, Goldilocks, Little Red Riding Hood, Snow White, all of those stories, if you go away and read them, they're amazing story structures that you can then read and adapt and change and take, because they're all very simple stories that you can just change and put into a modern setting, put into an ancient setting. Your character that we came up with, Dolores Flower Pants in my case, you could have made that a cat. You could have made it a hamster. You could have made it a dragon. Doesn't matter. A dragon can be grumpy, can be caring, can be stubborn, can be adventurous, can go on cruises. A cruise for dragons. Can you imagine? You've got this boat filled with dragons. What would that adventure be like? So you can do all of those things. So hopefully those kind of tips I've given you today will help. So the competition. If you would like to go away and write the story that you've come up with today with your character and your story structure that you've come up with, I would absolutely love to read all of them. The easiest way for you to send them to me would either be to type them up somehow on the computer, or write them on paper and then take a picture of them so that I can, make sure there's no glare, make sure I can read the writing. And then either send them to me on Twitter at Matt Beighton, get your parent to email them to me, or your teacher to email them to me, info@mattbeaton.co.uk. Or go to my webpage, and all the contact stuff is on my webpage as well. But what I will do then is I'll see how many entries I get. I'll put up, we'll do this again next week if people want to come back. We'll do something completely different. We'll do a poetry workshop next week, same time next week. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Let me just check my phone, see if I've got any questions come through on email or Twitter. Oh, I've had a message from one teacher saying, oh, slow down a bit. I've got some year fours that can't keep up. Oh my goodness, year fours. I am sorry. I didn't see that until now, so I have rushed ahead a little bit. What you can do is that this video will still be there, so you will be able to go back and watch it through. Even though it's live, you'll be able to watch it afterwards and slow it down. But I've got to say hi to Mersonfeld. Hello, all the children at Mersonfeld. School I used to teach at, some brilliant children there, still in school, still working hard, some of them. So Hi everyone there. Hopefully you've managed to catch up a little bit and you've got some great ideas. Tell Miss Coles that she has to email me all of your stories through one by one individually. She'll type them up for you. She'll absolutely love that. So I haven't got any other questions, I don't think. Just checking. Oh. Okay, we've got some people trying to watch, but the video keeps cutting out. Hopefully it has stopped cutting out. It seems to be working okay here. What I'll try and do, like I say, the video should be there for you to watch afterwards if it has been cut, if you've missed any of it. So apologies if it has been cutting out. What I will try and do is for the next video, see if I can set up like a live question thing on my actual website so that people can type questions on my website and then I can find some better way to get questions. If you do have any questions ready for next week, would like to say 9:30 next Wednesday, we'll do the same thing. So what date is next Wednesday? That will be Wednesday the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. So we'll do it then. I'll put the link to that one on all the usual places, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, my website, and I'll send out an email. If you do want to find out more information, you do want to stay up to date with all of this kind of stuff that's going on my books, go to my webpage and sign a newsletter because I'm starting to use that a lot more now, and I can just put out all the information, like links for this, just a quick email and everyone can get it. So hopefully I'll get to see loads of your writing come through. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and it's been a lot of fun for you. Hopefully teachers, it's made it a little bit easier because it's given you something to do with them, or parents at home. Any questions, send them through and I'll answer them next week. Thank you very much. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll read a poem just to finish us off. Okay. And just to whip you all up if you're in school. This poem is called A Trunk. It's one of my favourite ones. If ever you find yourself feeling in the meeting or the middle of class, that rumbling down in your tummy of needing to let off some gas, it's very important to remember that if you should relax and let slip, everything here on this planet eventually needs to let rip. I bet you didn't know that the Queen is a terrible nighttime pumper. Sometimes the smell gets so bad the king covers his nose with a jumper. The President of the United States has a guff so obscene that it's felt in every corner of the country, and the candles will often start to melt. Even animals like to break wind, from an elephant down to a shrimp. You should see the look on a gorilla as his stomach swells up like a blimp. We won't hold it in there for long. He just closes his eyes and relaxes. Sometimes the jungle starts steaming with all of his noxious bum gases. So remember the next time you rumble, don't hold it in, that's absurd. Just smile at the people around you and make it the loudest that they've ever heard. There we go. I didn't say it was a mature or grown up poem, but it is one of my favourites. So you can find all my books online, but I'm not going to do a big promo push here. I hope you've enjoyed it. See you next week.